Welcome to EPG Pathshala. Today we are going to discuss the module, The Basics of Locke's Epistemology. This module is written by Pravesh Yung of IIT Bombay. I am Raghuram Raju from University of Hyderabad. One of the major aspects of Locke's epistemology is, according to Locke, the theory of knowledge seeks to evaluate the certainty of assertions or judgments that we make about the things that we claim to know. That there is an object and I have a knowledge about the object, and what is the certainty of the knowledge that I have. That's one of the important concerns in Locke's epistemology. And the second important concern in Locke's epistemology is how to investigate the legitimacy of my knowledge claims. I have a knowledge. What is the legitimacy of this knowledge? That's the major concern. See, one is how to evaluate the certainty of my assertions. The other one is to investigate the legitimate basis of my assertions. These are the two important points that surround Locke's epistemology. Here it is important to note that Locke is not interested in discovering new truths about the world, but to know what the world is. How do we know about this world? What is the certainty of my knowledge, and what is the legitimacy of my knowledge? That is the very important concern of Locke. Locke, in this enterprise, is interested in demarcating what is the legitimacy of knowledge and what are the illegitimate claims about knowledge. So, for Locke, the way to achieve such a demarcating filter lay in understanding the epistemological structure that enables the generation of knowledge. So, in this sense, he anticipated Kant, who also has a similar interest of examining the limits of human knowledge. The difference between Kant and Locke is Locke's approach takes him more towards the psychological nature, in contrast to Kant, who's interested in the transcendental approach. So that's the important nature of, or the purview of Locke's epistemology, and this is how he is different from those like Kant. So one of the important points that Locke is concerned is that he rejects the innate ideas view. He also rejects the standpoint that truths are self-evident and things can be derived from these self-evident truths. Locke will not accept any truth as self-evident. He would say that all truths needs to be demonstrated in principle. That's his major concern. So he is different from every philosopher who agree that truths are self-evident. Locke outrightly rejects the self-evident truth of any claim. In addition to rejecting the self-evident nature or claims about truth, Locke rejects the innateness of ideas. He would say that ideas are not innate. Even Descartes accepted the innateness of ideas, whereas Locke would disagree with Descartes and others and then maintain that all ideas are given to us in experience. Ideas are rooted in experience. Ideas are through experience. This is what makes Locke an empiricist. So now let us look at Locke's argument against innate ideas and principles. The innate ideas are universal. If you say that ideas are innate, then you have to accept that they have a universal consent. That is, that they cannot be different from one innateness to other innateness. So that is one of the binding factors of innate ideas. But Locke argues that universal consent cannot be met as ideas come to us from experience, and they vary from space to time, space to space, time to time. They also vary from one individual to other individual. The experience of one individual is not the same as the experience of other individuals. So if there is so much of variety, if there is so much of difference in experience of different kinds of individuals, then it goes against the very claim of innateness. As I said, that innateness has to have universal consent. Then only something can be innate. So Locke gives a factual argument. This is what is called as Locke's factual argument, where he says that you cannot fulfill the condition of innateness ideas because it does not meet the universal it has to be universal, and it does not meet this requirement. For instance, he gives this argument against the innate ideas view when he says, for instance, if ideas are innate, then children should also have ideas. When they are born, they should have ideas like adults, but then children don't have. They gradually come to have. It is not that they already have. If they already have, then there is nothing like adding to their experience. But we do add to our experience over a period of time. So if ideas are innate, then there should not be variance between an adult and a child. Both of them should have innate ideas and perform equally, but they don't. That's the point that Locke makes in saying that you cannot have innateness. The other important point that Locke points out is, how about idiots? There are some people who are idiots, and if they are idiots, okay, then if ideas are innate, then the ideas should be in idiots too. But you know that they don't have ideas, don't have ideas. Now, how do you explain the fact that idiots also have ideas when they don't have? So if you accept innateness, then you should have invariance across the spectrum where everybody, depending upon their capacities, their state of affairs, should have. And the fact is that it is not the case. So that is a factual argument from Locke that rejects the innate ideas thesis. In addition to the factual argument, Locke also gives a logical argument in rejecting the innate ideas thesis. That is, that Locke argues that even if there were very certain principles and ideas that were shared by vast majority of mankind, it would even then not prove that these principles are innate. In other words, universal consent does not establish innate ideas, and this for him is because the argument is a logical argument. So logical argument along with factual argument are the two arguments Locke offers in rejecting the innate ideas thesis. There is a logical fallacy according to Locke in deducing innate ideas. Even if you assume that the human race does universally accept certain principles or ideas, the fact of this universal agreement does not by itself entail that the idea or principle is innate. There can be a counter to Locke's critique of innate ideas. One can, for instance, say that all human beings, either an adult or an idiot or a child, all of them have innate ideas. They have innate ideas, but the reason why there is a variance in between a child and an idiot or an adult and a child is because even though they have innate ideas, that is invariant, they are not aware of what they have. So there is a variance in their awareness, not in the presence of innateness. So that can be a counter to Locke's rejection of innate ideas. But the point here is that if you closely observe the argument is shifting from emphasizing on or establishing the case for innate ideas to people becoming aware of innate ideas. So, the shift actually does not go in favor of innate ideas, but the focus is shifted to the awareness of innate ideas. So that still makes Locke's case strong. The other important point that makes Locke's case strong is, if you accept innate ideas, then you have to accept that all your knowledge is around the innate ideas. In other words, innate ideas might give you a foundation, but like all foundations, innate ideas might restrict your freedom. Okay, you may be, if you accept innate ideas, you are bounded by innate ideas. It will not allow you to explore new areas outside the domain of the innate ideas. So that might restrict your growth and will allow you to move only around the domain of innate ideas. This is a very important point, and particularly if you look at the Locke's time, which enabled the travel into new cultures, getting to know about new cultures, that novelty, new knowledge is becoming very important, and that new knowledge requires not just the foundations of innate ideas, but also way to explore new cultures, new knowledge systems in outside. And Locke finds that this constricts the domain of knowledge if you accept the innate ideas. Having rejected the innate ideas thesis, Locke proposes his epistemology. He talks about how the primary source of knowledge is through experience. That we have a knowledge actually comes from experience. Now, he explains in this context two important concepts. One is simple ideas and complex ideas. Simple ideas for Locke ought to be unambiguous. They have to be clear, distinct, and they are unvarying in their appearance or conception. And when they are apprehended by mind, they are very clear. And they cannot be further divided. That's an important point. A simple idea is something that cannot be further divided. So, simple idea are thus the windows that provide us the picture of the external world. So mind has simple ideas, and through simple ideas it accesses the world. So realism for Locke consists of simple ideas, and they are not products of our subjective creation. If they are simple that does not mean they are subjective. They are the impressions that are made our own mind by the objective qualities of external objects that populate the world through sense perception or sensual experience. That is, if ideas are simple, that do not make them to be subjective. Okay, they are not subjective. In fact, that's what makes him a non-subjectivist and an objectivist and empiricist. Objects that are known through simple ideas are received passively by the mind. So they are not subjective and are not created by mind. So the simple ideas are not subjective and they are not created by mind. They are objective, and that's what makes them realistic. If mind can create these ideas, then a blind man could have the idea of a color. So if the ideas are created by mind and not dependent on the sense perception, then a blind man can have an idea of the color, or a deaf man can have an idea of a sound. But that's not the case. That's why he says that these simple ideas are not created by mind and they are not subjective. The most other important structural aspect of the simple ideas in Locke is simple ideas cannot be destroyed by any operation of mind. For instance, mind cannot decide that I will now ignore or destroy a simple idea. The reason why mind cannot perform this task is because the simple ideas are not further divisible. Since they are not further divisible, they cannot be destroyed. Before we go on to discuss the complex ideas in Locke, let us look at two important directions that Locke associates with the simple ideas. One is the outward, the other one is the inward. The outward is an experiential domain, the inward is a reflective domain. In addition to the simple ideas and complex ideas, Locke introduces a third category where simple ideas that accompanying ideas. That is, simple accompanying ideas. This category of simple ideas for Locke consists of ideas that join themselves to almost all our ideas of sensation and reflection. So they are the ones who mediate between the sensation and reflection. That is the one which mediates between the inward and the outward. These are not created again by mind, but rather ideas that are merely received by it. Further, he asserts that such accompanying ideas are distinct from the simple ideas of either sensation or reflection that they accompany. Ideas of pleasure and pain, or delight and uneasiness, both bodily as well as those arising by virtue of thoughts, along with other ideas of existence, unity, power and succession, are for Locke such accompanying simple ideas. That is to say, for Locke, almost all of our simple ideas of sensation and reflection are accompanied by the idea of pain and pleasure, the idea that one has the capacity to bring about a change in another body, the idea that one idea temporarily follows another idea, the idea that every simple idea of sensation or reflection brings along with it the idea that it really exists. The formulation of this third category of simple ideas not only shows that Locke upholds the tenets of realism, but more importantly, it enables us to understand that given that ideas of existence as well as causes are simple accompanying ideas, the reality of the external world and the causal relations are beyond our doubt. So let's just recapitulate what we have done so far. Locke rejects innate ideas. Mind for Locke is like a white paper, it's like a tabula rasa. The foundation of ideas of knowledge are through experience. All our knowledge is ultimately based on natural source of experience, and that's why he is called as an empiricist. So So mind for Locke is absent of ideas to begin with. However, it already has in place its natural operation, through it acts upon the ideas that we receive through our sensation. Thus, our experience furnishes us with simple ideas of sensation upon which the natural operation of the mind acts. Mind has the capacity to distinguish, to compound or bring together simple ideas to form another distinct ideas or abstractions. Simple ideas populate our mind through the source of experience, as I already pointed out. Mind is a faculty of retention. It retains many things that come through experience. We consequently manage to construct a variety of ideas by subjecting these simple ideas to the various operations of the mind. Ideas that are created through the various operations of the mind upon simple ideas are categorized by Locke as complex ideas, as I already pointed out. Thus, the first distinguishing feature of complex idea is that, in contrast to simple ideas, they are generated when the mind actively works upon our simple ideas. Thus, ideas of particular objects, say a table or a dog, are complex ideas which are constituted by the mind by compounding many simple ideas together. However, complex ideas is nevertheless construed by the mind as a single entity or ideas, and thus we can signify it by one name. Having discussed the simple ideas and how simple ideas get related with each other, now let us look at Locke's complex ideas. Locke divides complex ideas into three categories, namely complex ideas of modes, complex ideas of substance, and complex ideas of relation. Since his purpose is to establish the thesis that all of our complex ideas can be shown to be ultimately grounded upon simple ideas, Locke proceeds to show how the various simple complex ideas that furnish our mind can be shown to be either simple ideas of sensation or reflection themselves, or complex ideas based upon them. Locke further classifies complex ideas of substance into two further categories, namely complex ideas of single substance like table and sheep, complex ideas of collective substance like flock of sheep or an army. Complex ideas of modes, which are further divided into complex ideas of simple modes, for instance 2, the number 2 or a dozen, and complex idea of mixed modes like the obligation, a lie, drunkenness, murder, and things like that. For Locke, no complex idea of modes, either simple or mixed, can be conceived to exist independently. Thus, one cannot conceive of gratitude just existing on its own without conceiving of someone who feels the sense of gratitude. Apart from the complex ideas of substance and modes, Locke's category of complex ideas consists of complex ideas of relation. According to Locke, through the operation of comparing, the mind can relate two ideas to form a complex idea of relation. Thus, for instance, by comparing two simple ideas of two distinct shades of white, the mind could generate the complex idea of white or brighter. But more importantly, Locke holds that our complex ideas of relation also include those complex ideas that essentially implicate another idea in a relation. Thus, the idea of husband or friend is a complex idea of relation as well, given that the idea of a husband essentially evokes the relation of a man with a woman, and the idea of a friend evokes the relation of one individual with another. Locke's category of complex ideas of modes is of great importance to his reflection on morality, given that he employs the notion of modes to elucidate our ideas of morality. Locke believes that the large number of our moral ideas are complex ideas of mixed modes that combine simple ideas of reflection as well as of sensation to form a single complex idea. Locke holds the mind's operation of abstraction to be responsible for the generation of our abstract ideas. Abstraction is one operation that the mind of other animals, brutes, lack, thereby acting as a distinguishing mark that distinguishes human beings from animals. Likewise, Locke maintains that abstract ideas help us to economize on naming our ideas by enabling us to refer to many particular ideas of the same kind by a common name. However, Locke believes that such universal ideas are not merely hollow linguistic denominators, but rather refer to a concrete and a distinct kind of idea that is construed by the mind by abstracting all the accidental simple ideas from a particular complex idea of an entity. Locke talks about that there are two kinds of relations between two different kinds of ideas. There can be agreements or disagreements, and some of them are known to us intuitively. For instance, there is a mathematical proposition and we know it intuitively. If a mathematical proposition is wrong, we also know it intuitively. Okay, the green is known to us intuitively. For instance, if you say that green is black, then we know that it is a false statement, and we also know this intuitively. Okay, but in addition to knowing knowledge through intuition, he also talks about knowledge through demonstration. Like there is something about which I do not know, a statement is made, and the statement is demonstrated to me why it is true or not. So this is the demonstrative truth. So I go to a particular place and they tell us this is a so and so fruit. I don't know what is that fruit, what that fruit is, whether it's a good fruit or bad fruit, whether it's tasty or not. Now somebody tells me that this is a good fruit and it is a very tasty one. Now I know it through demonstration.
Yes, sir.
So to summarize, Locke rejects innate ideas, and then he talks about simple ideas and complex ideas, and in between he talks about the relation of simple ideas with each other and also the relation of complex ideas with each other. And then you have, for instance, he does not subscribe to subjectivism. For him, all knowledge is objective. All knowledge is objective. Mind plays only a passive role in receiving experiences or sensations from outside. That is the reason why Locke is considered to be one of the foremost empiricists from the modern Western philosophy. Thank you.